Greetings, chess friends. Today, a game which you likely haven't seen, and I couldn't even find much information about. Here is what I found, a game which looked to be some sort of Swedish national team, a simul against the great Capablanca. The year 1928, and Capablanca had just lost the world championship to his rival Alexander Alekhine in 1927. Let's check out this game where Capablanca was smoothly outplayed and then starts to show his true class. Maybe a game which resonates with a lot of the viewers out there, myself included, where you have a stronger player in your grip and somehow they just slip away. Always more resourceful, always one step ahead, sensing the moment. And let's just say this has been happening since the beginning of time. Okay, a Nimzo Indian defense here from Kappa. And not the most common move, bishop g5, but playable. Capture, capture, and a really solid approach by white, I would say. Black plays very principled move, castles, and d5 right in the center. And we're going to get this type of isolated pawn game. Had white ever captured, this game would still shake out well for black after captures, castles, and kind of an uncomfortable position for white. Black has all good squares for the pieces. Rook e8, bishop g4 or e6. Bishop maybe can take this knight or retreat. This pawn will be targeted. Really just a smooth position. Black has no issues. And again, the pawn structure balanced again. But he didn't take, and in the game castled, and Capablanca took. So this changes the structure to this isolated pawn structure. And Kappa lines up right on it with rook, with knight, with queen, and you can feel the danger here. Knight e4, that hits the queen, and it kind of leaves this bishop a little stranded. It was pinning the knight, and then the king castled, and then it was staring at the knight, and now the knight's gone. Queen f4, queen d3, feels a little shaky, in my opinion. Black doing well here, but bishop d7, a bit of a clumsy move. The engine I have is actually giving b6, which to the human eye does look a little worrisome. The knight is now unprotected, and a move like bishop e6 could come. However, this just doesn't work tactically. After bishop takes e6, rook takes knight, it looks like white has come out of this a pawn ahead until you see bishop d5. Looking one step further, again, proves really, really valuable here. Black wins. Let's rewind. So b6 might have been the way to go. Bishop d7, why clumsy? It gets in the way of the rook, and the bishop is not really a very active piece still. a3, and from this moment on, I would say that white smoothly outplays the legend, the former world champion, Capablanca. Follow along and tell me if you agree. This is one of those moves you see GMs make, and maybe you copy that move, but you never really understand why. I like this move. Maybe the engine suggests some others, but it gets the bishop out of harm's way. It opens the rook, and a useful move. We're not outplaying Capablanca just yet, though. Rook d1, getting our last piece involved. g3, bothering the black queen. This isn't a very dangerous move around our king side. I know our bishop is a long ways from there, but so is theirs. The squares around the white king remain pretty safe. Still, queen f5 and queen e3. I like this move as well. Sidestepping any problems with the rook, getting out of the pin that was there, not wanting to trade. Remember, white kind of wants to keep the pieces alive in an isolated queen-pawn game. Queen b5 and b4. Now, wait a minute. This looks like black has developed all their pieces, but it is a bit clumsy. a5, and I think this moment could be pinpointed where Capablanca really underestimated the next move, knight c5. The best move. And here, white, Dahl, again, don't have much info on him, and he didn't play for the Swedish Olympic team like I suspected, so no clue where this guy came from, but he was pretty good. Capablanca plays king h8, the best engine move. But very interesting, I think what he probably overlooked was that on pawn takes pawn, Dahl can just capture on e6. And this game is nearly over if you take back. We're not taking with bishop, but queen takes e6, and the problem is if your king moves, the rooks aren't covering the back rank. Queen g8 forces the king out, and you won't survive long with your king out here, and still all the pieces, queens, rooks, knights on the board. White is completely winning. Let's rewind. If you don't take this knight, again, a huge surprise, I would imagine, but still, rook d6, and black is on life support. Maybe Capablanca missed all this. One other thought, if bishop takes this knight, b pawn takes. That's the key. Getting out of the harm of the pawn and knight over here on b4, reconnecting with the other pawns, and really the move rook b1 is pretty annoying. And this pawn turns out to be the weakest that there is. King h8, he did play the best move, and let's see who's pushing around who, Mr. World Champion. Bishop c4. Okay, only move. Queen b6. Knight retreats to a4. Now your queen has a couple safe squares here. He plays queen a7, the best move. If you go queen c7, actually that is not a safe square. It appears to be, but after b5, your knight has to move, but it really doesn't want to. Let's just make a move with that knight. Notice rook staring at the queen. A move like bishop e6 now is really deadly. So that knight is pinned and attacked, and white is winning. So you actually have to go queen a7. So let's recap again. Kappa missed knight c5, I suspect. Here, he played the best move, reacted well, like a champion. Bishop c4, only move. Knight a4, only move. b5, where's the knight going? Only move. b6, are you serious? And you know where the queen's going. The only square she can go. And let's just look at this from black's perspective, from the perspective of the world champion. How are you feeling when you have to put your head down and play queen a8? I don't think it's an understatement that Capablanca was outplayed up to this point. We're on move 25. Okay, now let's regroup and show now the resilience of the former world champion, I should say. This is 1 year after he has lost the title. And remember, legend has it, so to speak, that Alekhine was dodging a rematch. So Kappa is still claiming he wants a rematch. He's the best. And at that time, there was no cycle. And Alekhine knew Kappa was very formidable and didn't want any part of him. He pick and chose other opponents, Bogolyubov, and of course, infamous choice of picking Max Uwe, who defeated him. So maybe a little bit of a poetic justice, so to speak. Anyway, off on a tangent there. We're back. Capablanca is still very, very resilient and good. I might add that if he had played bishop f8, and we are having a sort of game of chess 960 over here, which I'm a big fan of. Okay. The real game went knight d7, trying to exchange pieces in a bit of a cramped position. Knight takes knight. Rook takes. Interesting, but makes sense. Knight e5. Rook d6. Trying to make this pawn, which was so imposing, pushing us around, trying to turn that into a weakness and capture it. Knight g4. Here, a very interesting moment. The engine is giving a winning line, and Kappa doesn't play it. Let's see the move he did play. Was rook c6, doubling the rooks on the c file, a very logical move. Let's see a few mistakes. If you just take this pawn, seems like the most logical move, but in a whole flurry of tactics, d5 is actually very good for white. This is a huge mess, but seems like white is doing just fine. If you play bishop g5, the engine says you are winning. The problem with this pin after f4, of course, the only real move, is then bishop back to d8. Very difficult little back and forth to find, but now taking this pawn is for sure, and with f4 just being played, this diagonal in pin is going to be so much more serious. So a really nice little do-si-do there, threatening something, inducing f4, and so now that this diagonal, that's pretty tricky to see, although, of course, bishop g5 should be on every player's mind. Then I got to asking myself, well, what's the difference? Why not just play here? Take the pawn anyway. At least it's an option. You don't have f4 played, but it's an option. And the engine points out that the beautiful move knight takes h6. And if you do take this, queen h6 is also winning, but a little more complicated. Queen to e5, and at least we pick up the material. So a very interesting moment. All of that being said, he just played rook c6 and didn't take the pawn. Bishop d3. You can feel with each trade that black is untangling. Bishop takes a3. Now that's a pawn, a free one. And rook c7. Dahl, again, playing excellent chess here. Almost had let things slip, but rook c7 is brilliant. Rook takes, b takes. Now that pawn is knocking on the door. Queen c8, queen e5, nice centralization. Again, this pawn is hanging right now, and Capra plays king g8. d5. Absolutely outplaying the legend here. In this simul, with his peers and other masters from Sweden around, absolutely outplaying the champion. And you must be nervous. You know this is a moment, even a training game, any serious chess player knows that gets heated. But look at the calmness of Capablanca. There's many lessons to be learned from this game. Black, despite being on his heels, is a pawn ahead. Black has the two bishops. And black now has this c8 square very well protected. Our queen and bishop are double guarding that square. So this pawn isn't going anywhere. D takes e6. How can we resist d6? Let's flip it back over from the white position. Look at this pawn chain cemented in. And really, white is feeling good and clearly better. But d takes e6 is a bit of an inaccuracy. Bishop takes. Capablanca starting to realize maybe we can weather the storm here. Round up this pawn, and our extra b pawn is going to be a winning advantage. Bishop d6, and now it's clear that this pawn is doomed. White has lost their grip. This flimsy attack didn't work, and queen takes pawn. There it goes. White starts flailing. Queen a8 check. Another trade offered. Queen a5. Bishop f8. Very safe, solid. And I think here, not wanting to trade, certainly you don't want to trade and go into an opposite color bishop's endgame. Queen d8. Hitting the bishop. g6. Again, very safe when you have this bishop in here to guard all the dark squares. Knight h4. Queen d4. Centralizing, preparing to get this pawn rolling. There is no rush anymore. Bishop f1, and as if to say, you can wait? Well, I can wait too. King g7, and I'm sure by now White realized he had let the opportunity of a lifetime slip, and White resigned the game here. There's still work to do, but Black certainly in the driver's seat. Let's flip that over again and show you bishop coming to c5, bishop coming to d5 or c4. As long as we carefully trade, we're able to advance this pawn systematically. There's really nothing to be done. The knight is stranded, but it's all about this b pawn. So an amazing recovery, resourceful play, a tiny bit of good luck. It's not like White really blundered here, but Capablanca just wore him down and really outlasted his opponent. So an incredible game. And I think one that, again, resonates with a lot of us when you have a strong player on the ropes like this and you realize that they're not infallible. You can beat strong players, but I realized this long ago as you were getting maybe to the ratings of 1800, 1900, 2000 and up, the players don't roll over and just die easily. They fight tooth and nail. They fight to the bone. They fight to the end. And really, that's a great quality of a chess player, and one that if you want to rise through the ranks, you'll have to get used to fighting off your back foot as well. Because we've all been there, and we're all going to be there again. So a common situation, and whoever can handle it well usually succeeds. Thanks again, everybody. Hope this was a fun one. Hope this was a game really unique, and I hope I added a little bit of commentary that was fun and educational. So see you all next time.